London. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. Now, yesterday we saw unprecedented scenes of the U.S. Capitol essentially under siege. Did the U.S. President Donald Trump want it to go that far?
It's hard to know what he would have wanted in his heart of hearts, but he certainly took steps, including yesterday, that made the course of events extremely likely. I mean, in many ways, this is an inevitable consequence of President Trump's actions over the last 2 months, where he has basically challenged the results of the election. And quite frankly, I'd expected that if Trump was to lose the election, that he would challenge the results. But I was perhaps surprised at how far he's taken this. I thought at least once the Electoral College met in December, that would put an end to it. But he's brought it right up to the moment of certification, holding a rally outside the White House yesterday, encouraging these people to go and make themselves heard on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. When people have lost trust in their political institutions and someone is willing to exploit that lack of trust, then these kinds of events are very likely to occur.
Given that the U.S. president held a rally as Congress was going to certify the election, what do you make of the fact that the security apparatus in the United States, in the U.S. Capitol, seems to have been caught off guard, that we had people break into the U.S. Capitol and actually halted proceedings that were going on inside the building?
I agree with you. It's very notable. The United States is not a country that typically skimps on its security apparatus. And normally the United States security services and police and so on are very armed and militarized and often quite abundant. So given, as you say, it was known that there was going to be this rally of people who did not accept the election result, that they were determined to go to the US Capitol, it is very surprising that they were able to gain access. This is not something that should have caught people entirely off guard. And I think that there will be serious questions that need to be asked now about what went wrong. Was it ineptitude? Was there some failure by the security services to appreciate the risk that these individuals posed, and allowed them in some fashion to gain access? I think all of these questions really need to be asked and answered.
Now, there is talk of invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Donald Trump from office. How exactly would this work? And is there sufficient time between now and the 20th of January to do this?
So the 25th Amendment, there's a provision in the 25th Amendment that is meant to deal with the incapacity of a president, where the cabinet, by a majority of the cabinet, can basically send a letter saying that the president is no longer able to discharge his duties, and the vice president becomes immediately acting president of the United States. Now, this was written in the wake of the Kennedy assassination, a sense that if a president had been attacked, that this would be a way of allowing government to carry on. So it's really more to do with kind of medical issues. People thought that it might have needed to have been invoked when Reagan was shot. Nonetheless, it is a constitutional option that's available. If that letter was sent to Congress, Donald Trump would be allowed to send a rebuttal letter. But then if the cabinet sent a second letter from themselves to Congress, that would take Trump out of action for up to 28 days. And of course, there aren't 28 days left in Trump's presidency. So it is possible, actually, with quite immediate effect almost, for the cabinet to remove Donald Trump for the remainder of his presidency, should they wish to do so.
Now, Democratic leaders from around the world, including France, the UK, Germany, India, have been coming out to condemn what happened in Washington yesterday. Essentially, they're saying what happened threatened democracy because it puts the peaceful transition of power in jeopardy. Has the United States lost its moral high ground here?
Well, one of the things that is, central to my own research is that the United States has had many challenges to democracy throughout its history. That I think the notion of the United States is on this kind of teleological path to ever more perfect union is a bit of a chimera. That the United States, democracy in the United States, has always been fragile and has been marked by challenge and sometimes reversal. And I think that this fits into that story, that that democracy is not something that just happens and stays that way, that it has to constantly be worked on, to be protected, to be strengthened. And when people don't take those steps, then democracy can unravel. And I do think that is in some ways what we are witnessing in the United States at the moment.
Richard Johnson, we're going to have to leave it there. Pleasure speaking to you here on France 24.